Okay, so it's 7 p.m.
Good
I think
evening, Manwai.
yes. Good evening, Jakur Bhai. We are going to start soon.
Sure,
Yeah,
no problem.
it's already 7. Thank you for joining. So I think let's start today's talk. So first of all, I'd like to say my salam and greetings to everyone, and also from good evening from Dhaka, Bangladesh. And my name is Mohammad Mainul Islam. I'm a professor in the Department of Population Sciences of the University of Dhaka, and also a moderator of today's event. I welcome you to the Let's Talk Population and Development. And today is the second episode of the talk. The first episode was on July 11, 2024, the day of World Population Day. And you know that Let's Talk Population and Development is a series of conversations with academicians, researchers, policymakers, and practitioners working in population and development. And this monthly 50-minute interactive online dialogue is open to all stakeholders, including students, faculties from various disciplines, government and development workers, and journalists from the print and electronic media from the home and abroad. And I would like to mention that I took this initiative with the support of my beloved current and former students and colleagues in different professions. And I believe it can be a platform to discuss the practice of population and development and analytical work centered on policy to improve the quality of lives of population by ensuring their rights and choices that is recognized by the International Conference on Population and Development, named as ICPT 1994. Dear participants, today's world is more demographically diverse than ever, bringing new challenges, creating opportunities, and changing demographics as a driver for sustainable growth and human capital development. We must investigate how countries can take those opportunities and respond to citizens' needs by making suitable investments while safeguarding human rights and pursuing actual development. In this regard, China is a perfect place to learn and to know more about demographic dynamics. In this background, I'd like to inform you that during today's 50 minutes talk, we'll have a distinguished scholar, Professor Xiaochun Qiao, is my respected teacher, a mentor, and an outstanding scholar. And I'd like to introduce Professor Xiaochun Qiao. That means that Professor Xiaochun Qiao is a professor at Peking University at the Institute of Population Research. And then also he's the vice president of China Population Association. Professor Qiao is the pioneer member of International Network of Health Expectancy and Disability Process, that is named as RAPES, vice president of International Commission of Historical Demography, and also editor-in-chief of the Journal of China Population and Development Studies. Professor Qiao got his PhD degree in demography at Renmin University of China in 1994 and conducted postdoc research and to be a research associate at Carolina Population Center, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, USA from 1999 to 2003. He was an overseas fellow at the Institute of Developing Economy, Japan External Trade Organization, Japan in 2003. And also he was a visiting professor of the Department of Sociology at the University of Waterloo, Canada in 2008. He served as editor-in-chief of the leading journal of population research that is named in Chinese Renkou Yangjiu from 1994 to 1999 and executive editor-in-chief of the Journal of Population and Development that is Renkou Yufata from 2006 to 2020. He was a council member of International Planned Parenthood Federation at Asia and Oceania, and also invited by UN, UNFPA, and WHO as advisors. His research interests focus on population policy, population aging, health expectancy, population census, population projections, and quantitative methods of social sciences. He has published more than 200 articles and 15 books in both English and Chinese. I am very grateful to Professor Qiao for his kind consent and presence during today's talk. Now it's the time to hear from my distinguished guest, Professor Qiao. And Professor Qiao will present on China's population issues, shift from amount to age structure. So Professor Qiao, please go ahead with your presentations or speech.
Thank you. Thank you very much for Professor Mainul. I gave very candid introduction of what I experienced.
Professor Qiao,
Okay.
just for interruption for 1 minute, I'd like to mention one thing for the audiences, those who are present here. So during or after his 20-minute speech of the presentation the audience or participant can ask questions and comments. And considering the episode of allocation of time is 50 minutes, I will take questions from the chat room first. So if you want to ask a question to Professor Qiao, please write your surname and your question in the chat room. So please ask your question there. And you can also use your raise hand buttons at Zoom function to ask questions. But I will try my best, but I may not be able to address all of you there during that time, shortage of time. So just for short notice, I would like to address you. So now, Professor Qiao, please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let me share, the PPT. Have you seen that?
Yes, Laoshe. Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. I think that just when I heard the introduction of Professor Mainul, and I really appreciate what he set up this kind of platform in order to make some communication among different scholars. I'm a demographer from China. So what I'm going to talk today is just like Mainul mentioned that, to tell some experience which China has already experienced during the population processing since the early time. I think that this kind of experiences are very important to learn from other developing country. China had learned something from Japan and South Korea, but learning something is most important. Also, as a demographer, I'm going to talk about China's population issues. The topic is very simple. We talk that this means that the Chinese population issues was shifting from the large of number of a population to the age structure. As a demographer, I think that my experience is try to show you something by using some figure and tables rather than some theoretical expression. I'm going to talk the 4 questions, dealing with the China population. The first, I'm going to talk about, high population increase in early time. Because of that, that kind of pressure. So Chinese government was really had a very high pressure. Then you may know that in around 1970s, Chinese government started some program we called famine planning program in order to control the increase of population. This kind of program, the purpose of that is to relieve the pressure of the large population. This kind of things was also happened in Bangladesh and other developing country in Asia and Africa. Then, after China controlled the population increase, then we got some consequence of the population control that's called population aging. Not only population aging, come from population control, but also, because of decrease of death rate. So now China faces a new pressure of low fertility and a negative increase and shrinking of labor force and also faster increase in elderly. When I talk about the current situation of population aging, I think you may quite care about the future. In the population study really care about the long run rather than the short run. So I tried at the last, I tried to show some the population trend in the future in China. It means that I try to tell what would be happening in the future in China. This is what I'm going to talk today. The first, I gave you a figure, then you can see the whole, trends of population increase. You can see that, the top curve is birth rate, the low curve is death rate. Then the time is from 1949 when China was founded until now. Then you can see the difference between the birth rate and the death rate. This is called increase rate. You can see that in early time, after 1949, the Chinese population increased very fast from 1949 to 1958. The total number of increase that was 118 million increase within just the 10 years in the beginning of China just founded. Then, after 1958, China faced very serious problems. We call that 3 years disaster. Then you can see the birth rate decreased very fast and also the death rate increased. Then this is the only time in China the population increase, happened to be a negative. That is the only time before. Then after 1962, when China's economy, resumed, then the birth rate, suddenly increased very fast. Then we face the second baby boom. Second baby boom is also, we call this also within 10 years. Then you can see that within these 10 years, the total number of population increase was 175 million, just within 10 years. This is a very high population increase area. So we face the first baby boom at this time, then the second baby boom at this. Then you can see the second baby boom, have a highest, population increase. Then just because of the highest increase of population, the Chinese government started family planning, at this time. That's in 1973. The purpose is very clear. Government tried to control the population increase because at that time, the total number of population in China is already very large. It is already, at that time, already past 800 million, population. Then China, in the first period of family planning policy, the policy focused on the two-child. It means that the government allowed the couple to have 2 children at the first phase of the family planning program. Then second one is because you can see that the birth rate decreased very fast during the first period of family planning. Then the government, try to further, control the population. Then the government implement one-child policy, more restricted policy, happened in 1980. Then you can see that the birth rates, didn't decrease, but increase. The reason was that China started economic reform in rural areas, so that even the policy is more restriction, but because of the new policy of the economy, then the cost, the high desire, for the farmers to have more number of children, so that the birth rate is still increased. Even the policy is more, more restricted. Then, this very restricted policy that we called, everyone know that is a one-child policy, only implement 4 years. Then, after 1984, Chinese government released the policy in rural areas rather than in urban areas. In rural areas means that I listed here. In urban areas, still follow the one-child policy, but in rural areas, usually we call that 1.5-child policy. That means that when the first child was a boy, in rural areas, they are not allowed to have the second. If their first child was a girl, they are allowed to have the second child. So that's why we call that is 1.5-child policy. Then this kind of policy was implemented, with a long time, didn't change, since 1984 until, 2013. Then I think everyone already know that in late of 2013, Chinese government, release some of the policy. Then I will talk about the releasing of the policy further, after some of the slides. This is a very general situation of the policy. Then you can also see the trend of the birth rate and the death rate. Then you can see that this is an increase rate between the birth rate and death rate. Then you can see the areas, the areas between them are shrinking. So this is a very general situation, okay, in the whole history. Then I show the total fertility rate. The total fertility rate is, the curve is just like the birth rate saw before. Then you can see the exact number of the TFR here. You can see that at the first baby boom, the TFR on average is just 6, from 1949 to 1958. Then after the 3 years disaster, then since 1962, you can see the TFR was very high. Then you can see the highest point is happened in 1963. You can see that that should be that already be at 7.5 for the total fertility in China at that time. Then you can still see that the TFR was very high, with the second period of baby boom. Then the TFR decreased, even the China family planning program started. Then the lowest point that is in around 1978, 1980, that's just a little bit higher than 2.2. Then you can see that China TFR reached a replacement level around the early 1990s. You can see this one. This curve is a replacement level that equal to 2.21. Then after 1982, the auto TFR was lower than replacement level. So at that time, we usually call the fertility lower than replacement level. We call that a low fertility. Then even that, you can see that the fertility is still lower than because of the release of the family planning policy. You can see that the first release happened in the late of 2013. We usually call the partial release for 2-child. Why we call it partial? Because at this point, the new policy only focuses on the couples. If one of them is from one-child policy, they are allowed to have 2-child, have 2 children. This is what we call the partial release, or we also can call the conditional release for 2-child. Then, even, the policy released at this point in time, you can see that the fertility didn't increase a lot. So, 1 year after, the government found that the TFR still decreased. And so that in the late of 2015, Chinese government released, we call it universal two-child policy. It means that at this time, after 2016, the government allowed people to have 2 children, without any condition. Then, China conduct the 7th population census in 2020. Then in the early 2021, that is May, government issued the result of the census. Then it was the first time, Chinese government issued the fertility for at this census. They called that in 2020, China's Chinese TFR was only 1.3. After 20 minutes of the census data issued, the government released the 3-child policy, at the late of May 2021. So, this curve is a time of the release of the policy for 3-child. So this is a kind of the policy changing. So now, even China still have some of family planning policy, but now already allow people to have 3 number of children. Even that, you can see that the fertility still decrease. That's the new situation which Chinese government, even scholars, have never imagined before. Then if we look at the changing of the age structure, then you can see that the change is very huge. This is 1953 population census. The left chart, this is a pyramid in amount. It means that in the total number of population. You can see that in 1953, the total number of population is 590 million. The life expectancy at that time is 48 years. Then you can see the shape of the age structure is very normal. The left one is a male, and the right one is a female. Then in 1982, you can see that the age structure is changed like this because China started family planning policy in 1973. Then you can see the age structure have some kind of changing. You can see that. If you look at this line, it means that the population at this part was already exist in before 1953. It means that the whole body of this part already moved to this part. Then the below the line below areas, that is population increased from 1953 to 1982. This is a new increased population here. Then you can see the areas is very huge. Even China started family planning policy. That's a age structure in 1982. At that time, total population already 1 billion. Then life expectancy was 67.9 years. Then the update result is the census in 2020. The total number of population was already 1.4 billion. The life expectancy was 77.9. Then you can see from 1982 to 1920, the life expectancy in China increased just 10 years. Then the total number of population increased, more than 400 million. Then you can see that this part of the age structure was coming from this one. This means that below this line, that is all the new increase of population from 1982 to 2020. Then you can see this is a new population. Then if you look at the pyramid, you can see that the elderly increase very fast. For example, if you look at this line is age 60, then you can see the area above this line is increased very fast. That's the total number of population aged 60 plus. Then you can see this line is 80. Year 80. It means that we can call the population age 80 plus oldest old. Then you can see the oldest old at this time is only very limit. Then increase at this part, and you can see that in 2020 already increased to this amount. So this is the age structure changing in China among the 3 point of the census. Then I give the result, the data of the population age structure changing. Then this total number of population increased, okay, from 1953. All this data are coming from the population census in China. This is a total number of population in 2020. Then this is the population age from 15 to 57. You can see that we call this a labor force age. Then you can see the total number increased. Then this one is the highest. Then the decreased. Then the total number of elderly 60 plus also increased very fast. In 2020, already 264 million. This is the total number, and this is a proportion. Now you can see the proportion for children. Then there's a proportion for the labor force. Then I changed the age, from 60 to 64. 59 to 64. Then the older population, I use the 65 plus because this is an international standard. So you can see the proportion of the elderly 65 plus already reached 13.5 in 2020. Then this is the dependency ratio. Dependency ratio, you can see that the children dependency ratio decrease. Then there is only one-time increase. Then for the elderly dependency ratio, the increased very fast. Then the total dependency ratio also increased. Then if I try to compare the different increase of the different part of the population, you can see that from 1982 to 2020, this is among between the 38 years. Then you look at the total number of population, there are increase only 0.4 times. If you look at the elderly age 60 plus, the total number in 1982 is this number. Then in 2020 is this number. Then they are increased 2.4 times. If you look at the oldest old, they are increased 6.1 times. If you look at the elderly population age 90 plus, you can see that they are increased 16.8 times. If you look at centenarian, if you look at the elderly whose age is 100 plus, then you can see they are increased almost 13 times. Then you can see the general situation. The higher of the elderly, the higher increase. Between 1982 to 2020. Then if you compare China with other country, some selected country, they can see that China's aging level is a proportion of the elderly at age 65 plus. This is 13.5. The highest in the world is Japan in 2020. That is 29. Then the highest in Europe, that is Italy. That's 23%. This is a very general situation, general proportion of elderly population. Then if you look at GNI per capita, by using US dollar, then you can see that even China have this kind of level of aging. Then China's GNI per capita is relatively lower compared with other countries where they are a proportion of elderly higher than in China. So this is a very situation that China have a higher proportion of elderly, but we have a lower GDP per capita. That is a problem we faced. Then if we look at the age structure, I have already mentioned that this is the first baby boom, the second baby boom. Then you can see that the population who was born at the first baby boom have already reached this kind of years, this kind of ages. For example, I list the total number of births, by the two baby boom. Then you can see that for the first baby boom, each year they have born, for example, in 1949, there was 19 million new babies born. Then there's 20 million, 20 million, 20 million, 21 million, 22 million. This is all this 10 years. That is we call that first baby boom. You can see that each year the total number of births already more than 20 million. Then, after 3 years disaster, you can see that during the disaster, the lowest number of births has happened in 1961. That's only, 12 million a year. Then you can see after 1961, as I mentioned that, because the economy resumed, then the population increased very fast. Then you can see that in 1962, total number of births already reached 24.5 million. Then the highest number of the births happened in 1963. That's almost 30 million. Then, after 1963, the total number of births born in the coming years was also, quite high. And even in 1975, that year, there was 21 million of new babies were born at that time. Then this kind of baby, if you look at the age, for this one, who was born in 1962, there was age in last year that is already 61. Then the people who were born in 1963, there was age was in their age in 2023 already 60. At least the years they are entering the elderly. Then you can see that after 2022, each year there was a very huge amount of population entered the elderly population. Then you can see that in the future in China, since start in 2022 to 2023, then until 2035, each year there was more than 20 million number of a population entered the elderly. So this is a general situation. Then because China implement family planning policy, then we can look at the average number of children alive for women by birth cohort. I have already lived this is we list the population by the birth cohort. Then if we look at this amount of population listed by birth cohort, it means that this is the people who are born in 1965 to 1969. This population. This a woman who was born in 1956. Who was born in 1956, whose age in 2020 is only 64. Then at least the number based on the year of the birth, then at least the average number of children they have. Now, if you look at the cohort who was born at this time, before 1950, their average number of children alive was very high. For example, if for someone who was born in 1931 to 1935, whose age was 85 to 89 in 2020, who on average their children was 5. The number of children was 5. Then the average number of children decreased, because of family planning. Then you can see that for this all the birth cohort, then the average number of children decreased very fast. Then this is the average number of children here. Now for someone who was born in 1980, on average, they only have a 1.6 number of children. And then because I showed some of the data before 2020, so here I list some update data. After 2020, then we gave 2021, 2022, 2023. Then you can see the new situation. The total number of births, in 2020 That's 12 million. Then you can see the total number of births decreased after 2020. Last year's only 9 million a year. Then the birth rate is 6.4. Then the number of deaths increased from 2020, then increased to 2023. Then you can see that the number of deaths already more than the number of deaths. So that's why since 2022, China met a negative population increase. You can see that the population increase is negative. The increase rate is also negative. Then you can see the number of population of elderly still increased. Now already 3 million of the population whose age is 60 plus. Then there's the proportion of the elderly. Then there's a proportion of the elderly age 65 plus. Then there's the current TFR. Then this life expectancy. You can see that life expectancy last year just published by the government. That is 78.6. Then I made some population projection. Since 2020. Then if you look at the future from I started my population projection in 2020 until 2070. Then you look at the result, you can see that the red one is the death rate. Then the blue one is the birth rate. You can see that all the death rate higher than the birth rate in all the time in the future. Then this caused the increase rate, natural increase rate was the negative all the time. You can see the extent of negative also increased in the future. So what I means, it means that if you look at the increase, it was which is negative. It means the population increase should be decreased in the future. Then I gave the result of the population increase in the future. Now China have already 1.4 billion population. Then you can see that after 2022, the total number of population decreased. I gave 3 scenario. Then in the medium scenario, you can see that the right one, almost at the 2070, China's total number of population should be decreased almost 1 billion. Reached 1 billion. This is the general situation. Then I also calculated the annual increase rate by different population age group. Then you can see that the total number of population, the increase of the total number of population, just like the blue one. Since 1982, the blue one is reached to zero at 2020. At 2022, then went to the negative, all the time. Now, if you look at the age of the labor force, age from 15 to 59, that is the right one. In early time in 1982, until 2011, their increase is a positive. Then after 2011, their increase rate was all was a negative all the time until 2070. Then if you look at the elderly population aged 60 plus, that is the green one. You can see that the increase rate is very high. This is a 3.5. It's very high. This is the increase rate of the elderly population aged 60 plus. If you look at the increase rate of oldest old, that's the population aged 80 plus, then you can see the annual increase rate is much higher than the general elderly population. You can see like this. And one thing is very clear, then the increase of the elderly population should be stopped at this time point. That's 2055. It means that after 2055, the total number of elderly population would be decreased, afterwards. This is a situation. It means that the population, the increase of elderly population should be stopped at this time point. Then I saw the whole.
Professor Qiao, how many slides do you have more?
Yeah, I almost finished. Okay.
Okay, great. So,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Then this is a very general situation from early part of time. Then the future. Then you can see the very general situation. The total number of population should be decreased. Then the total number of labor force should be increased. The highest the highest number is here. Then also decreased. The total number of labor force decreased. Also the total number of elderly increased, until at this time point. Then also the proportion of the elderly also still increased. Then you can see that the proportion of the elderly age 65 plus will be reached 41% in 2070. Then this is also dependency ratio. We call the demographic dividend when the total dependency ratio is lower than 50%. Then the demographic dividend in China should be happen at this time period. Okay, this is a very general situation. Then you can see the whole change of age pyramid. This 2020, 2020, 2030, 2040, 50, 60, 70. Then you can see the huge shift of the age structure. Finally, I try to make up, then I give some only some point. Overly control its population would cause additional and more serious problems. China will be no longer the largest country in the world because of family planning, and China's population will decrease forever in the future, and the increase of the number of elderly will be ended after years 2055. China's population will be aging in the long future, would not be stopped. China will be facing a great challenge in fast aging in coming 15 years. This is what I have talked dealing with China's situation. Thank you. Okay, I hope you can raise some of questions. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Lao She, how I say in Chinese, in language, generally we used to say teachers as a Lao Shi. As I studied in China, that means I always used to say him Professor Qiao Lao Shi. That means Qiao Lao Shi. But anyway, what I would like to say that I would like to give a heartfelt thanks to Professor Xiao for his excellent presentations or speech of what we have seen. Since we have the limited time because we decided that 50 minutes will continue such kind of talks. Maybe I can increase a little bit more, but not more. So regarding that, actually, I was expecting questions from the audience if you have. So, and if no questions from the audience, then I will ask some questions to Professor Xiao. So let's going to look through our audiences there. I think Aris, one question is then okay.
May I come
Aris,
in, bhai?
Yeah, sure. Aris, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Mainul and Prof. Qiao. It's excellent. I think Prof. Qiao is a real demographer. Explained very well
Thank you.
about the future of the China population. Prof. Qiao, I realized that China is very good in technology, including IE, robotic technology.
Yeah.
Do you think that technology can overcome the fear of aging population in China?
Yeah. I think that, we have some expectations, by releasing some of the, aging issues by taking some high technology. But, even we have some expectations, but we have never sure, in what extent that, the high technology can, can resolve the very serious, problems, happen in the future. So, we really have this kind of expectation, even higher expectations, because, when some country have a very high, population aging, not only the number of elderly increased, but also, the number of the labor force also decreased. It doesn't mean that, sometimes some people think that if we got money, that's we can face any problems. I don't think this is true. we not only need money, we not only need some technology, but also we need people. If we have less number of labor force, it means that we have less number of young people who can care for the elderly. This would be the much more serious situation in the future, especially in China. China, as China have a huge population, China cannot rely on other country to resolve the problems in China if we're dealing with a population issue, right? Not like other country. For example, if some small countries, if you lack of labor force, you can absorb some of young people from other country. But in China, we cannot use this kind of means to resolve the population issues, even the aging issues. So the technology is one of the expectation, but I'm not sure what extent they can be resolve the problems. Thank you for your questions.
Okay. So I think I just like to add that Professor Aris Ananto is the editor-in-chief of International Journal of Population Issues, and he's a professor of University of Indonesia. So let's going to thank you, Aris, and another two more hands I can see, and also one question on the chat room. So first I'll read the question on the chat room, then I can go the raising hands. So one question coming from the Mustafiz Chaudhuri. He's a lecturer in the Chinese Department of Culture at the Institute of Modern Language at Dhaka University. And I think his question mentioning that Professor Qiao, that what innovative policy measures has China implemented to address the challenges posed by its aging population? Additionally, how might these policies be adapted or modified for application in countries like Bangladesh, where demographic trends differ significantly? So this is one of the questions. And another, I think, coming message to you, that thank you for your wonderful informative presentation. And these remarks by Tuli, she's a student of the Department of Population Sciences, raised one question to you, that how China managed the older population social support. Does it by institutional or familiar? If institutional, please give us a sight about China's mechanism. And I think these are the two questions from the chat box, and also two raising hands. We can just take their question, and then you can go through your answer. So these are the two, and I think I can give first to Anwar Hussain. He is in Max Planck Institute of Demographic Research, a former student of Dhaka University. And then question goes to Khandokar Zakir Rahman, who is a UNFPA Bangladesh official. So first go to Anwar. Please be brief regarding the questions. So we have already, time is very short, and then as we are planning to make this very briefly. Please, Anwar.
So thank you very much. So Professor Qiao's presentation offers a fascinating overview of China's demographic evolution and how governments evolving family planning policies. However, these policies have often been implemented in a manner that raises concerns about reproductive rights, and which is a central tenet of 1994 ICPD. To me, there appears to be a paradox in China's stance. For example, while the country officially endorsed ICPD's emphasis on reproductive rights, its policies have continued to reflect a control paradigm. Given China's dual commitment to the ICPD and its implementation of restrictive family planning measures, what key principles guide Chinese policymakers as they continue to shape reproductive behavior through three-child policy? And what lessons can other countries learn from China's experience regarding population management and protecting reproductive rights?
Okay,
Thank
Anwar, you have a long extended question. So yes, Xiaochun, you may think, and we'll take another question from Khandokar, then we'll go to you, and then you may think which one you feel free to answer. So another question, Khandokar Zakir Rahman from UNFPA Bangladesh, please.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Qiao, for your very informative presentation and discussion as well. My question is, you may well aware about Bangladesh that we are working.
Yeah.
UNFP is supporting Ministry of Planning, especially General Economics Division, to prepare the 5-year plan.
Mhm.
So as we have similar experience, so what long-term planning strategies can Bangladesh adopt from China's experience to ensure sustainable population growth and age structure management? So this is my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me
Great.
the opportunity.
Okay. So actually, I think Professor Qiao, please feel free to address anything else if you want.
Oh.
It's almost 7:50, so I think we can continue for another 5 minutes or something like that. Right?
Okay. Oh, okay. I try to answer the questions, reversely. Okay. It's
Sure.
the last one. I try to answer the last one. Okay, because the last one is most important because I think that because I was in Bangladesh, and I know the situation. There's really have a similar situation, happen in between Bangladesh and China, but with family planning policy, I think both of the country really need this kind of policy because we all have a large number of population, compare their areas. But I think that the situation in Bangladesh is more serious than in China. Before I went to Bangladesh, I think that population issue in China is very serious. Then when I went to Bangladesh, I found that the situation in Bangladesh is much more serious than in China because you have so much number of a population. So I think that even China already stopped the family planning policy, then released the policy already. But I think that Bangladesh, should also learn something from experience from China. But because the population issue, the problems in Bangladesh are much more serious than in China. So I think that in Bangladesh, you should still keep your family planning policy, but you can you can hold that kind of level rather than leading to the fertility to very low level. What I mean that once your fertility reach to too low level, you are unable to resume that into the higher level. So you have to be consider that before you release your policy. So it must be measuring that under what kind of level of fertility you have already reached, then you should reach release the popular policy. As my opinion, once your fertility is lower than replacement level, you should release the policy already. Rather than in China, China already, the fertility reached to 1.5, even lower. Then the government really realized that we should release the policy. That's too late already. So that's the experience, learned from China. This is the first question. The second question is dealing with the reproductive health. Really, China really have very, very strict, family planning policy. But after 1997, ICPD in Cairo, Chinese government also realized that we are not only focused on the controlling the number, but also to improve the reproductive health of the women. So the government have already implement many measures dealing with improving the reproductive health, after 1994, which much better than before. What I mean that the ICPD in 1994 really contribute a lot for changing some action, not changing of the policy, changing some of the action dealing with family planning and policy in China. So that's why you can see that there was some of publication mentioned that the family planning programs in China have very positive impact for the equality of gender, rather than the worsening something. This is the second question I answered. Then the other two questions dealing with the aging issues, how China dealing with that. China is a very huge country. Then also China follows some old system. So we set up some new system dealing with the population aging in early time. For example, the pension system. It means that in early time, even before 1997, China almost have no pension system. So the government already implement some of the measures in order to deal with population aging, but I think it's not enough. It's not enough. Then also the question asked if we have to develop some institution, for taking care of the elderly. But unfortunately, the government, for almost 10 years, focus a lot on setting up the institution for the elderly. But unfortunately, in China, less than 100% of elderly who are living in the institution. This is really problems. Even the government focus a lot, it's invested a lot on setting up some elderly institution, but the real situation is worse. It's not like they're expected. So that's the question I answered. Thank you.
Okay. So, Laoshi, I think Professor Qiao, thank you very much for answering all these interesting questions. So, since I think questions are coming, but time is limited. But no doubt, one question came out from Jannatul Naim. I think she's a master's student from the Jahangirnagar University Department of English. The question was why China's birth rate are so low. I think that Professor Qiao already mentioned about the about family planning policies, and it's also not only policy, also individualisms, everything, all factors. But if you want to add any more comments or statement, Laoshi, you can do.
I think that is also very good questions.
Yeah.
You ask questions, why is China's birth rate so low? Even Chinese government, even scholars, Chinese scholars, before the release of the family planning policy, they have never realized the fertility, the birth rate should be might be very low, in the future. This is really problems. The problem is that before family planning policy released, everyone in China, they still imagine the Chinese people have a higher desire of having more number of children. But now when we release the policy, then we suddenly know that no people like to have more number of children. This is really problems. Then why? There was a lot of reason. For example, the cost of the living, in general, the cost of the education. That's the reason why the Chinese young people, they don't like to have more number of children. Also, the family planning propaganda also have some impact for the young people. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. So I think, we are very close to the ending of the talk today. And what the messages we can take from here, because discussions can be continued. And I hope that Professor Qiao will join us again in future, in coming times. But the thing is that we know that demographic diversities are happening all over the world and definitely have implications for the future, what we are having experience, not only in China, Bangladesh, or any other countries in the world. So population age structures were never so diverse in human history as now we are having. And that is reflected in China too. So in this regard, I think these differences demand different development policies, especially in the light of climate change, urbanization, digitalization, what we are saying now, mega trends. So it is essential to understand the population changes and what is ahead. We must prepare for more significant age imbalances. That means what's the role of demographic processes behind them? And we also will look for practical responses to demographic change and reinforce the human rights approaches to population policies that promote sustainable development goals in a rapidly evolving world. So with this, I think I would like to thank you very much, each and every one of you, for joining this talk. And we'll have the third episode in coming September, and you will get a notification earlier. I hope all of you will attend the upcoming event as well. And this recorded video will be also uploaded on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. you can watch and share it on your networks, with your networks then. Also, thank you again. And please, I would say that stay fine. And I would like to say that I don't want to say, but still I would like to say goodbye for now. So goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very